I think it's time to start our special meeting for budget. I'll ask Summer to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Patterson?
Here.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa? Here. Commissioner Roberts?
Here.
Commissioner Stallings?
Here.
Commissioner Orr?
Here.
And Mayor Mason.
Here. We'll have our invocation. I've asked Commissioner Norwood to do that, and our flag salute by Commissioner Siragusa. So if you'll stand up, we'll do that.
Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for blessing us to be here another time. Thank you for being here in the city of Enid. And God, we thank you for everything that you do for us. And we pray that you lead us and guide us in this budget session, that you will help us to make the right decisions, to help this community move forward for our safetyness and for our progression. And Lord, we thank you for all things. And we just want to thank you in your mighty name, Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, item 3.1, consider approval of change order number 7 with Garney Companies, Inc., North Kansas City, Missouri, for project number W-1912C, Call Water Supply Program, Phase 4 construction, for a time extension to September the 11th, 2025, and authorize the mayor to execute necessary documents.
Jason Jansen's going to come up and talk to us about that. And I would just preface, there's been a lot of work put into this. You were updated, I believe it's a meeting or two ago, by Jason about the delays. I think that's been firmed up with when the delays will be. I'm happy to say he's here to talk about a no-cost change order extension. And so Jason, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thanks, Mayor, Commission, staff.
I was going to say, repeat that, no cost?
I'll let him repeat it.
Yep, I think Commissioner Stallings had put me on the spot on April 16th, if I remember correctly, but this is a no-cost time extension request. Our original substantial was June 27th, 2024. We're seeking essentially a 441-day extension, carrying us to September 11th, 2025. Based on what we know today, from our operations standpoint, we do feel September 11th, 2025 would be more in line with what we'd consider a final completion. Some of the lengthy and extended delays that we've had within the water treatment plant, notably, before I left to come here this evening, crews have again resumed work at the filter admin building, so that's the good news. Materials are beginning to arrive and work is resuming again. If things continue to work right, Mother Nature and the weather cooperates as best as she will, we still think, and there's going to be a lot of collaboration alongside Garney, Garver, and staff. As a reminder, Garney's scope of work, it does not entail the automation and integration component. That's on Garver. But we'll be working together, three of us, the city, Garver, and Garney, in order to begin that integration process. We're pushing really hard to make that facility available for some of the internal components of that operation by summer of next year. And again, pushing really hard for a final completion of where we're done and complete and Garney's 100% demobilized by September of 2025. Some of those highlight that we talked about before, and again, Garney scope, the manual startup, the localized startup, the functional testing. I talked on that in the summer. Part of this contractor GMP amendment would be striking omission of the shared savings clause within section 5.1.1.1. What that means is any and all items that Garney has funded to date through CMAR contingency, including but not limited to scope or other factors of the program, through May 2nd, 2024, we will continue to do that as we've done previously through GMP Change Order 6. And any surplus funds, if there are any, at this point in time, it's questionable at best. Those will no longer be a shared function of the program. Any and all those, if any, will be paid out to Garney at the closeout in accord with the contract. And again,
Jason, you might tell them too, I think we've had 8 or 9 construction change directives that use contingency, but I think there is still some amount of contingency left. By your numbers, I think that's a little under $1 million, something like that.
There is, and it's just under $1 million. I don't have the exact number in front of me, 990-some thousand and change, if memory serves me correctly, but roughly $1 million. We've got 2 major components yet that haven't been advanced for a CMAR contingency. Some of the asks that we've had from Raleigh and Garver is, one of the things we as CMAR will do, we'll continue to track financially each and every one of the 5 major facilities for budgetary purposes within the program. That will be the intake facility, the water treatment plant facility, the raw water pipelines, the water treatment plant, and Chestnut water distribution. So each and every one of those will be itemized to still maintain the current fiscal projections within the pay application request so that we capture the current projected and ultimately final cost of work for each and every one of those bid packages when we begin the closeout stages within CMAR. Did I adequately answer or address that?
Yes.
And again, part of change order number 7 is a no-cost amendment. And, you know, it took some communication in order to get us here. This topic was actually on the table at time of change order 6. But we have reintroduced it today with the mindset to continue to remain a partner with the City of Enid throughout the course of this program in order to cap and minimize the total budgetary exposure to the program on Garney's behalf. Within the change order, there is one still reservation of right that we've talked about before, bid package 1.04, the horizontal directional drills. We don't know what that's going to entail in the future, but we do need to maintain and reserve our rights to that claim as we've done before. Other than that, we're looking to relinquish and release all prior claims, all prior scope amendments, construction change directives, RFI, submittal comments, et cetera, as well as to address the schedule extension within our portion of the CMAR contract.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What are you really saying about the problem we've got up there with the boring?
Well, as we know, the Arkansas East drill was a failed pullback.
I know all the details. I'm just trying to figure out contractually, what are you really saying to us relative to that?
Contractually, the current claims that have been issued to date are multi-party claims. And claims either directed to manufacturer, all of that. So because of that, you know, Garney and the city, for lack of better words, are caught in the middle of the pass-through claim process, so we'll have to reserve those rights to see how it unfolds in the future.
That term, reserve those rights, tell me what you're really saying.
I can't speculate. I wish I could, but I don't know exactly how that'll play out. Presumably it'll be a legal matter of some sort. To what extent, I don't know.
To include the city on that? Is that what
Yeah,
I'm
that's
understanding?
what I'm trying to get to find out. Are you saying that there's a potential that we would have to pay for that?
So when I talk about bi-party claims of this,
Yeah.
There are claims from the contractor straight to the manufacturer. There's also claims from the contractor to the architect or the engineer. There's also claims from the manufacturer to both the contractor and the engineer. It's quite messy. So because of that and all of this, we don't know how that will ultimately play out. I think the way I see it, both Garney and the city are caught in between this.
Well, and Commissioner, my understanding is pretty much what you said, that there may be, because we are contracted with you, and we are contracted with Garver. We are not contracted with the pipe manufacturer or anybody else in this. So through that process, there may be some claims that we get involved in, but I also know that the city reserves our rights and all defenses that we have to it. And I don't think, so I think what he's saying is there may be some claims. I don't know if they'll impact the city or not, but I'm presuming they could. I'm not trying to speculate, but it also sounds like there's a lot of parties pointing a finger. So I'm guessing if there's a claim, there's going to be legal action.
And Commissioner, for the time being, our primary focus is to determine the actual work plan forward in order to get the scope of work complete without concern or fear of delay the program with those reservation of rights. We do intend and we are presently moving forward with those plans.
So I haven't heard anything in a couple of weeks. Has anything changed? The last thing I heard, it was the site's been basically abandoned at this point.
So activity on the site, nothing has changed at this point in time. We have to continue down the path of pipe assessment for the integrity of the pipe, determine the revised bore plan and drill lengths that may or may not be the same limits, and that will ultimately determine the amount of replacement pipe, if any, or the amount of coating remediation that may be required to facilitate that resumed scope of work once it happens.
Well, who is lead on this, making those decisions at this point?
The ball is in Garney's court at this point in time as far as working through where we're at with the contractual component related to bid package 1.04. We may have an ask on behalf of the city and the engineering team with regards to the pipe product at some point. Once we get to that point, we'll compile that information and make a determination, is that process acceptable, if in the fact we were to utilize existing pipe. We want to make sure all parties are in consensus before any steps continue forward with regards to the pipe product.
So you're still on first, you're the man?
Yes.
Okay.
What'd you say, Commissioner?
I said he's still on first, he's the man, Garney.
Okay.
And I've said before, our push still remains to get the raw water pipelines 100% and ready to be commissioned for their intended purpose by close of this year. That's our drive and our push to maintain that, to not avoid anticipated startups, localized startups, and functional test and prove outs within Garney's scope of work, whether it be via the intake, the intermediate booster pump station, in order to transfer that water from Call Lake to the water plant to begin some of those functional startups next spring, next summer.
Well, just to also help clarify, what I recall from the language is on the HDD reservation, it's regarding Arc East and Arc West. Is that right? And Arc West was successfully completed now, but there were some issues early on.
Yep.
And you just updated them on Arc East.
Yes, sir. I'm not aware personally of any issues related to 30-inch HDDs. Those two crossings, the Salt Fork and the Horseshoe, were essentially completed successfully and efficiently and on time. And thereafter, Garney did execute and implement the owner engineering directives with regards to the coating conductance test post-HDD pullbacks.
So the pipe that we're having trouble, is that the one that we did the scar guard on?
Yes, so we did the remediation for both of the 36-inch drills.
Okay,
One of the two was successfully installed, the other one was not.
okay.
What phase of the project is that where we're having the trouble as far as the pipe not being able to be installed because of,
I'm sorry,
what part of the project is that? Where is that located?
It'd be what we call the Arkansas East HDD, just north of Highway 60. It'd be the first river crossing working south away from Call Lake, east of Ponca City.
It's, the turnoff is near that water park, I think, right? The Hub Water Park, and if you're familiar with it, I guess that's Highway 60 that goes across the dam.
Yes.
That.
It's the same crossing where we had some prior settlement issues near Joel Colby Road within Osage County.
And is the problem because of rock that you're running into, or just don't know yet?
For those prior reasons, I'm not at liberty to speak and voice my opinion to that.
Okay, all right. Other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, this is an action item?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I'll look for a motion to grant the extension.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, please cast your ballots. Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 3.2, discuss and take necessary action on the fiscal year 2024-2025 City of Enid budget. Okay.
Well, Mayor, I told Jennifer I was going to interject just a few words, and so I will, because I know she'd be disappointed if I didn't. The first thing I want to say is, this has been a hard budget year so far, and we're not done yet. But I'm very proud of the team. I believe this is one of the most efficient years in my time here at getting this done in a timely fashion and getting it to you. And I'm not saying that we haven't done it timely before. So I guess what I'm saying is you've got an experienced team here that has done this before. And so when we run into difficult issues, and I'll say having a $9 million problem, what you don't get to see in the creation of this budget is all that goes into it. It's months and months of work, largely done, well, a lot of it's the accounting department, Jennifer, Aaron, and her team, their teams. Department heads are involved. So I'm just kind of letting you know, you're getting to see, what's painful just to look at in this format. Imagine getting all the requests that you have to sift through. And the team down here did most of that, but in our effort to balance the general fund and EMA, we did have some significant challenges. So to resolve those challenges, we had to make choices, hard choices, and so part of that you'll see over the course of these 3 sessions. We had to reduce our capital improvement program. Our norm recently has been, I'm going to say $15, $16 million a year. I think it's around 9 or so this year. There'll be more talk, I think, at a future meeting about capital projects. We certainly had to look at equipment in the general fund, and we've looked at some personnel and transfer issues. And I think that's the bulk of what we looked at. But I'm happy to say we did get to a balanced condition in general and EMA, and it's pretty much almost balanced overall. Jennifer will talk about all that. But I wanted to say I appreciate the efforts of the accounting team. It's a massive amount of work. And so now we're at showtime. Right, Jennifer? And so I was kidding Aaron earlier when I said it was going to be the Jennifer and Gerald show, but it's really your show. And so I thought we'd just start talking about it. And as we talk about it, I can tell you we try to put a lot of information in this, and we do a good job of that, but it can be confusing. And so feel free to ask questions. We need your questions and we need your feedback. This is the best approximation of what I think the city's core objectives are and what we're trying to do at the city to move the city forward, because we're a city on the move. And this largely supports infrastructure and public safety, even though the capital improvement program is smaller, while we continue to provide the essential services of the city. So I'm very pleased to bring that to you. And since I know we don't want to be here all night, I'll probably just turn it over to Jennifer, but I probably will interject from time to time because, again, it's been a challenging year. She's going to talk about revenue. We're looking at revenue being flat, or pretty much flat. So that's part of, when revenue's flat or we don't project much growth, that makes it difficult because we have growth everywhere else, as you know. We've had double-digit inflation over the last couple of years. You know, we have a lot of people, and we've got to pay our people, and everything costs money. So I think I've appropriately set the stage. Jennifer, why don't you take it away and wow them with the numbers?
Before
Yes, sir.
Jennifer takes over, can we talk about the schedule?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think she has a schedule slide. You want to pull it up, or do you have a schedule slide?
The very first one?
No, I'm talking about our schedule for meeting.
Yes, yes. You want to tell them, or you want me to?
As of right now, we have next Tuesday will be at the regular meeting will be the budget hearing. And during the study session, Morale will go over all the CIP program, which is our capital improvement. And also we will have the EECCH that night also. We'll probably start off with that. And then Morale will talk about the projects that are in the budget.
So we have today, we have next Tuesday, the regular meeting, and we have Thursday of next week.
Okay.
And then ideally, on May the 21st, we'll be ready for approval, but we can talk on the 21st, and we've also reserved the 23rd, I believe, if we need that date also.
So we've got 2 meetings next week, and then one after we get back from Washington to.
Yes, sir, and the one after Washington's a regular meeting.
The regular meeting, okay. All right, thank you.
Would you like to schedule less? Because we'd be okay with that.
Well, this would surely be better, but I
Less is
recognize
better,
there's a
see?
lot of information that we've got to.
Okay.
When I said EECCH, that would be the event center. So that will be on Tuesday with CIP.
Okay.
So we are under the Municipal Budget Act, and this gives you a little timeline of what we absolutely have to do to get you the budget in time, to have the budget hearing in time, and to prepare the advertisement for the hearing in time, so that we can start spending money as soon as July rolls around for our new fiscal year. We do ask, if possible, to approve it in May, and that is just because of our 30-day prior to new fiscal. Well, actually, the budget approval just needs to happen in case for our 30-day on the resolution. If you approve an emergency resolution, we can do that immediately, but the majority of the time, we approve by regular resolution. That puts us 30 days out before we can spend any of that money legally. So that's why we always ask to do the budget approval at the end of May. So that's part of why we move everything up based on these dates. You know, there's really not that many days, other than we did give you the budget in time we did that on April 22nd with electronic version. So we made our 30-day cutoff there, and that's pretty much the most important for this. This is our page 12, which we use quite often when we're talking about all of our funds. This gives us the budgeted revenues and the budget expenses. Call it our budget summary. And as you can see, we are almost fully balanced. We do have a deficit of $388,610. We'll talk about that a little bit later. This is with all transfers, and we will discuss later on when you remove those transfers, we adjust to a different amount quite altogether. But this is our main page that we go to say, everyone, this is where we're at. This also talks about fund balances and where we project to end after the next fiscal year. So we did have an increase in budgeted revenue from last year, about 2.7 million, but we also had a decrease in budgeted expenses of 3.2.
Which kind of highlights the conservative nature of how we do things around here, right? We usually are very conservative on revenues, and we're still conservative on expenses, but in action, typically we spend less than we budget. So I just wanted to point that out, because when we do and have in the past had deficits in general fund or EMA or some other fund, The reason that we're able to do that is because at least one of two things, and there may be some other things. Number one, we have fund balance to rely on. Number two, our revenue usually comes in higher than what, because we're so conservative, so, and we spend less money. So the net result is your city and your team are good stewards. You're good stewards of the city's money. So that's what that means.
So next slide, we're going to look at the same exact numbers, except in the middle with our revenues and expenses, you'll see it's only 108 million. This is removing all the transfers that we have. So when we have sales tax that comes into general fund, there's dedicated funds that we must transfer to EMA for debt and for capital projects. So those are the transfers that I'm actually talking about. So significant difference going from 180 million to 108. So that's really all the money that we have to look at for operating the city.
What page are you on?
This one is not actually in our budget book. We just show the difference. So nowhere in the budget book shows without transfers. It's just part of our slide presentation to let you know. It's in the slide presentation that you received, but.
The reason this is important is because when we get audited, we have to take all these interfund transfers out. So the budget is 180 million. However, when you take all those interfund transfers out, we transfer money from general fund to police, to fire, to other funds, from EMA to all these other funds. So it counts, when we show it as an expenditure in one fund and it transfers to another, and it's spent out of another, then it gets counted again. Those are those interfund transfers that get taken out, and we're left with 108 million. So that should be closer to the real number of what the auditor is going to determine when he comes through.
I didn't really have a question about the page, but if you're going to show us a page that's not in the book, tell us, because I spent time looking for that page while
Apologize.
you were talking.
Okay.
And I didn't hear everything you said. So.
If we talk about a page, I usually will name the page at the top, or I'll say what page we're on.
Okay.
Other than that, we're really talking about numbers and comparison through the whole book. And so if we're talking about specific areas, this first section is an overall, so we're talking about the entire budget as a whole. The easiest page to do that is our page 12 that has the summary, but this is just another way to look at page 12, even though it's not in our budget book, so.
See, I turned to page 12, and it's not there.
Right,
That's what's
because that's what we were looking at before, but that's where we draw this from, so I apologize. So this is our overall budgeted revenue history, and this is without transfers when we're looking at this.
This is just in the slideshow, so you should have
Yes.
an email with the slideshow if you're able to pull or want to pull it up on your iPhone. So this is not in your budget book, this is graphical information.
And the first half of my presentation tonight is probably not going to be on an individual page. So these are just the overall numbers that we're looking at as a whole. This slide also looks without transfers. The sales tax amount is in the blue, and the utility fees that are in EMA are in the red, and all of our other revenues coming from all of our other funds, or that our other funds receive, are in the green area. So if you look at the revenues by type, and this, again, this is overall of our entire budget. This is the percentages of how that looks. So the sales tax is the amount in blue, that's at 40%. That is the biggest part of our revenue, but you can see we couldn't do it without any of our other, like our utilities that are in red, which is our 37%, and then all the rest of them are broke down in the smaller amounts. Grants specifically are in the green, that is at 4%, and Woodring Airport is the light blue, so it's a 2%, and then the total of all the rest of our funds make up that kind of burgundy, darker red that comes in at the 10%, and that covers all the remaining revenues, which are hotel tax, any interest, golf revenue, our gasoline tax, fines, fees, permits, and things like that that all come through. So those are our other revenues. So we have a revenue comparison here that specifically looks at general fund and EMA, since those are our biggest sections for revenue. Not much of a variance for general fund on the increase. That is really due to, we did set an increase for use tax, and we increased some franchise taxes that are coming in higher. And then the EMA, we have a pretty good increase of 4.2. That's mainly due to an increase on interest that we think will come in higher. And utility revenues across the board, there's a total of about $2.2 million increase on utilities. And I think that's mainly because we've been really conservative over the years, the last couple of years, not doing any increases. And we do have like a 5-year history, a 3-year average, and a 5-year average that we look at before we do any kind of increases for revenues. So that's when he says we're really conservative. We have several years of data that we look at. The remaining funds are a decrease. Part of that is we had grant funding in for the CIP trail, one of the trail projects, and that's not in this year. And we had a decrease in hotel tax and the event center rental. And then Jet A fuel cells are down a little bit. They are phasing out the T1s, is what I'm told. At least they're in the process. I don't know how long that will take, but we did decrease sales for Jet A for that reason, which later on next Thursday, you'll see that we decreased the expenses too for that. So this is a history kind of our budgeted history for the expenses. Looking at our categories, which are categories that we look at most is their personnel, operations, and our capital outlay, and then our debt. Capital outlay is where we do any equipment, vehicle purchases, all our capital improvement projects and things like that. And then operations is mainly in all the individual departments, and that's their daily spending that they have to operate. And then personnel, of course, is personnel. The percentages for each of those stay just about the same. I did notice that on 22-23 we had a higher operations budget, but that was when we had a lot higher grant for CDBG and also in airport. So that kind of made a skewed graph based on those numbers.
So on the personnel, is the police and the fire department in this personnel, or is this
Yes,
direct?
they're
Okay,
included.
they're all in there, okay.
Yes, everyone, all in between 500, 600 employees
Okay.
is all
Okay,
in there.
thank you.
So this is looking at the category again, but looking at the percentage of where it falls. This year, usually personnel runs in between 33 and 38% of our total overall expense. It showed a little higher because usually it's right around 35, 36 for the last several years. But we jumped to 38, but I think that's because in the capital outlay, which is in green, is only 10%. Usually that's a lot higher. So obviously, since we had to decrease our capital improvement programs and our projects, that's just going to make your other categories look a little higher also. So the operations, which is at that 32%, that's just basically all of our departments all together. That's their daily things that they spend. Debt service has also increased in their section more than what we've had a couple of years now. And, but that's where we are percentage-wise for all across the board for our entire budget. Those are the
We do have some of the debt
categories.
service that's going to roll off, right? the water lines that we did over Leon and Mitchell area?
Right, that will roll off in '25. And then the other one that we just did for the $5 million debt
Yeah.
will roll off in '28.
Yeah.
So they
Okay.
won't, it's not an immediate, but it
Right.
definitely will
Right.
be reduced, and then pretty much all we'll have left is mostly cost stuff. Here's our expense comparison. Again, with just the different, general fund is where we look at everything, just like we did before on the revenues. So we've got general fund versus EMA, and then everything else is kind of thrown together. So we have a decrease overall on our expenses of 2.4 million, which is about 2%. And the general fund overall decrease for that is we moved 7 positions from our general fund area to our EMA area. And so there's a slight increase in EMA for that, and then of course the decrease on the general fund side. The overall increase for EMA, 2.4 approximately, is for the increased debt compared to what we had last year. And then of course, moving 7 full people into EMA. And we will go over EMA next Thursday when we do the rest of the funds. So we'll go over in detail a little more on their departments, and we'll have debt slides and things like that. The all other funds, with the significant changes, of course, the overall decrease of 5.2, CIP decreased projects, approximately $4.6 million of that. And then, of course, I already mentioned the airport cost of goods sold for their Jet A, is we show as going to be a decrease when they start phasing those T1s out. We'll also talk about airport on Thursday, so.
And we can talk about it then, but when they were redoing the runways, our jet fuel sales went way off the
Right.
chart, didn't they?
Right.
So.
And normally it would continue because they're still doing their project, but the T1s were the biggest part, I think, of the increase. Now,
Okay.
he didn't say if there's gonna be anything to replace those, but I know that there was talk about something like that. If they land there, they're gonna get at least 500 gallons of fuel, is usually the norm. So, you know, when that happens, of course, it's great for us, so.
Sure, okay.
Here's our few unbalanced funds. We have 23 funds in our budget, and 19 of them are balanced this year. 2 have a deficit, 2 has a surplus, and those are the 4 in front of you right now. VDA had fund balance, so we reduced the transfer to Advanced Development Authority this year only because they have had fund balance growing. So we just reduced that for this year only. It will come back next year. Stormwater fund is we send them the exact amount that we receive each year. We send that to that fund specifically because it's a dedicated fund, and we have more revenue coming in than we do projects. So that's their surplus. And then police fund and fire are based on the transfer calculation that is worked out. Police they have the fund balance to cover their deficit, and fire they're saving their tax, and so they're building fund balance. Their public safety tax, which is another one of the taxes that go to fire and police, their public safety tax, and they're saving it for their larger capital, which police used part of theirs this year because they are contracting to do the backside of their training center. So, but fire has in future large trucks that they would like to purchase. We'll be talking about both of those on Thursday also.
Last year, we had that surplus deficit, it was about 6 million, wasn't it?
The total of all was,
All the
was it
unbalanced
almost
funds.
9? When it was looking, no, it was 6. It was 6.
So that's pretty good, isn't it?
It is very good. It's been a long time since I've seen anything like this,
I
so,
remember it last year, and that's a lot. better.
yeah.
Yeah, good.
And that's partly, we are very conservative when we look at revenues before we show any kind of increase, but they have almost always come in higher, therefore that builds your fund balance a little bit more, and so, you can show a deficit on some years, but you can't do that every year.
Right.
So we're trying to dial it back this year and worked really hard. A lot of people worked really hard on trying to get that balance, so. Okay, we're back to page 12. Commissioner Stallings. And this is just showing all 23, again, all 23 funds. And tonight, we just wrapped up the overview. And then now we're getting ready to go over the ones in yellow, the 6 funds. And then on Tuesday, we will go over the capital improvement plan and event center, which those funds are in green. And then Thursday, May 9th, we will go over the remaining covered funds in blue. There's 9 of those, and we'll talk about those on Thursday night. We're getting ready to talk about general fund. So page 22. So this shows 2 years of our general fund revenues. And we group them together on this slide to make it easier to see. So sales tax, our sales tax group has a slight increase of $489,000. That is use tax because it was coming in quite a bit higher than, so we went ahead and raised that. No, that does affect the other sales tax because the 1% that go to EMA and the safety tax, they all receive a piece of the use tax. So that's why, if you look on page 22, it looks like all of our sales taxes are increasing, or most of them, but it's actually just due to increasing the use tax. And then we did increase franchise fees just a little bit. O&G's coming in higher, and OG&E. So the other ones are pretty small. Our grant area is our community development department. They usually just do like a $4,800 grant. This year they're asking for the full $18,375. So that's the $13,000 increase that you see in grants. The miscellaneous is just a slight increase that we have for interest is all. So this is looking just at general fund expenses, and this does include our transfers, and those will show in the capital outlay category. You can see there's not much of an increase. We would be showing more of an increase in personnel, but we did move those 7 positions. We will be moving those 7 positions to EMA. So that's why that variance isn't near what we normally would show when we're showing a budget. And the capital outlay increase is just due to a few of the transfers being higher than last year. Just slight on fire and police. There's a $97,000 more to golf transfer, and that is because he has plans for 2 mowers that he's buying next year. Here's another way to look at, spread out a little more detail on our general fund expenses. Personnel, again, is our 20%. Operations is our 12, which is the red, kind of on the right, top right. Police transfer out is the 18% in purple. Fire is the 15% in light blue. And orange is the 1% transfer to other funds, which is very small. And then our capital sales tax amount in dark blue and our car sales tax is 17% also in the burgundy. Those are the ones that are directed towards EMA for debt and for our capital improvement projects. This starts a list of all the general fund departments. You can see none of them have very large variances. There's a few softwares that we removed, or we add back seasonal interns and human resources. For safety, there's a vacant position, and we removed that. And in general fund, due to the CIP, the capital improvement programs decreasing, that decreases the amount of transfers out for arts and parks. And we had a vacant position in IT, which is our information technology department, and we went ahead and removed that vacancy also. Could be temporary on the removals, you know, if we need them later on, but they've been vacant. The two positions that I mentioned have been vacant for a while, so we went ahead and removed them from the budget since we were trying to find any place we could to cut to make the balanced budget. Community development has a slight increase. They're still adjusting on expenses for when we combined the two we combined community development with code. Also, we did budget $50,000 in for the beautification where, you know, this year we had to do a budget appropriation to do that. So we want to go ahead, get it in the budget already. Also, they're doing the full grant amount, which I mentioned before, which is a slight increase for them. 700, you see the large decrease, the deficit, and that is due to the 7 people moving from general fund to the EMA departments. Parks and Rec, a little higher than our normal increase that we normally would see for like personnel. We, you know, because we put in that they might receive a step depending on where we are on negotiations on what management tells up that we put in for personnel budgeting. And but park increase is their utility increases for, it seems like their lights on the trails have finally hit our utility bills, so they're a little higher. Plus we have the soccer complex agreement that is in there now, and so that is the main reasons why the Park and Recs is much higher on their variance.
Jennifer, I have a question.
Sure.
Are the employees' wages included in these line items as far as budget, or is it just
Yes.
operations only?
No, this is their entire budget for these
Okay.
departments.
Thank you.
So overall, you can see that we didn't have much change. We really looked at all of our departments in total and really looked at places. We knew that this year would be tough, and we were trying to find a balanced budget, so we worked real hard on that. Any questions on any of the individual ones that I did not speak about?
I have a question since I'm the new person.
Sure.
You're saying this was going to be a tough year. Can you bring me up to date on why this is a tough year? What's happened?
I think I will let Aaron. It's mostly because the CAW debt is kind of at a max, and we did not have it before, and then we had 2 additional debts that we are now paying back also in addition to the CAW, which Mayor mentioned the water lines that we were doing. One of them is the Leona Mitchell, and then the other one was the $5 million debt, I believe.
Okay.
So just, it's kind of, we're seeing our max amount going out for debt this year, and next year especially is quite a bit more. I mean, just the debt payments increased into $2.5 million compared to what it was this year, so that is a big hit. in 1 year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, any more questions about the general fund departments before I move on to health? Okay, health fund is on page 85. And this slide will just show our revenue and expenditures. Revenue's blue, expenditures are green, and it's what we budgeted originally for this year, and then what we project the year into. So the next several slides will have this same format, and then, of course, the last columns will be what we're proposing the budget for next year. Not much change on health fund. It is an internal service fund, and those are the ones that are established to finance, administer, and account for departments of a government. And department budgets have a place for, it comes directly from the departments, and then we have a line that comes directly from the funds, and that's what part of the revenue is. They're very similar over the last several years. Balanced budget every year. And then we have a projected fund balance of 3.8 million. Any questions about the health fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
On the health funds, is this the cost of supplying health benefits to the employees, or is this the use, from employees going to the doctors and all that type of thing? Is all that together, or is it?
Well, we pay for part of their premiums.
Okay.
And the employees have a part, and that's one of the revenue account lines. The one that says general fund, that revenue comes from all of our general fund departments. Then we have the enterprise fund line for revenue, and that comes in from all the rest of the funds. And so that supplies, that's the department share, which is what the city pays for the employee side. And then on the claims line, down in the expense, those are all of our claims. So on the expense line, you'll see health claims, and then you'll see dental claims, and those are the things that our employees actually are using, and we pay for them.
Okay.
Do you have anything to add?
I would say,
Okay.
we have a self-insured plan, which is why it runs that way. We are not paying an insurance company and then they pay the claims. We have an administrator who does all of the claim processing for us. And so therefore, we're collecting the revenues and holding it as, trustees basically for the health plan. And then we have an administrator who does all those claims processing, sends us a bill, and we reimburse once a month for all of those. And you see that on the claims list every time. And so this is just the in and out of running that plan for our employees.
Wow, Gerald, City of Enid has the best healthcare system. To me, that's.
I'll tell you what, it's
pretty
a great place to work, and we do have some job openings. If you're out there watching, and you're tired of hearing about the budget, come apply for a job, we'll put you to work.
How long has
Makes
Enid
it
been
easy.
self-insured?
As
At
long as
least
I've ever known.
As long as
but-
I've been here, we have been, which is 20.
Several decades at
20
least.
years, yeah.
We were self-insured when I came in '88.
Okay, yeah, so it's long.
I was gonna
So a
say, we
long
were
time.
self-insured in 96 when
Yeah.
I came.
Yeah. You might point out, though, there is a stopgap
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, there is.
where we buy reinsurance, right? Or,
Right, we do
Yeah,
have a
catastrophic.
stop loss. If you look on page 87 of the detail, it specifically spells out that we pay for stop loss and what that coverage costs the city as part of the health plan. And that kicks in at 125% of the calculated value for the plan. And so definitely need that in there to make sure that we
Yes.
don't have anything catastrophic going on.
I think it's both on an individual level and an aggregate level.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions about health? Let's move on to the Advanced Development Authority, we call VDA, page 182. This has been budgeted the same for several years, definitely since last year. Again, you'll see that the revenues are zero, and that's because we're using fund balance for this fiscal year, or the 24-25 is we're proposing to use their fund balance. So we have no transfer from general fund in this budget book. We were looking for places that we could cut for a balanced budget, so. This is where Mike Cooper's contract is and his related expenses. And then, of course, we do have our scholarship account that we pay for spouses, dependents, and help them with their tuition and books. Any questions about that? Next, we'll talk about CDBG, which is on page 137. This slide is based on what they have met so far with the committee and where they are proposing the funds go. The $450,000 total that is listed here is still an estimate. We do not know for sure the exact amount of funding. We actually have in the budget book $500,000 for this plan, and if it changes much from the $500,000, we'll obviously make that change if we know for sure before we try to print you a final draft and have approval. But if we receive that number, this is one of the changes that will happen. We'll make it match what the funding is for this year. But I know the committee has met a couple of times. I know that, I think that she said they're meeting again tomorrow. Or maybe that was today.
We met at 4 o'clock today.
Okay, that was today. And,
It's already changes to this slide, so.
oh, okay. Well, anyway, if we come back and we know, if we finally hear from them on the total amount of funding, we will definitely make that change in the budget book before we have a final approval, so. And the revenue always matches the expense on this fund because we don't spend any more than we actually receive, so it's never an issue on that. And it might be, it's showing a little higher if we have some prior year amounts that we have to still clear up. And that's why the grant line and the grant expense line would be a little higher than what we are showing here. Their prior year funding.
So up here on administration, we take our staff person out of this money also,
Yes.
right? Okay. All right, perfect. Yeah, that's good.
They're allotted according to the CDBG federal funding that we hire somebody and it's at a certain rate. Laura's did a great, fantastic job.
Absolutely.
In what she has done and everything else, and that money is allotted up to a certain amount that we get to hire.
Yes, sir. All right, thank you.
Any more questions about CDBG? Okay, next we're going to talk about the Chisholm Trail MPO. And this is new. It's very new for me, for sure. And I know you've heard a lot about this in the most recent council meeting, so there's not really a whole lot that I can go over. I do know that it's an 80-20 grant match. Our agreement right now is $360,000, and that is for an actual 2-year, but we put in for that full amount just because we're still trying to get it started. There will be an MPO transportation planner position, and I'm assuming that it will be very similar to how the CDBG fund works, and we'll have that one person that does all the coordinating and things like that. And there is the match for $55,000 that comes from the general fund, and that's one of the transfers that are newer this year. There are 2 boards that have to do with that. You want to talk about that more since, okay.
I'll talk about it just briefly.
Okay.
There's 3 commissioners, Mayor, Commissioner Stallings, and Commissioner Norwood are on the Transportation Policy Board, along with a lot of other people, the North Enid Mayor, one of the county commissioners, Commissioner Weedle, and gosh, I'm missing a lot of people. Demetria Dixon, our transit director. So that's part of what's been set up. We've probably had, I think, a couple of meetings, maybe 3, and we're still in the stages of essentially standing it up, or as Carol says, birthing the MPO. It's notable that no MPOs, the last time an MPO was stood up, according to the ODOT ladies who assist us and is their role working for ODOT, it's been about 40 years, so this is new to all of us. We will be hiring a transportation planner very soon. In fact, I think it hit my NeoGov, so I just need to go approve it tonight, and then a job posting will be out soon. We'll look to find somebody. This position is going to be very helpful, and I'll give you an example of a meeting that we had today with ODOT. As this MPO becomes more mature and we have whatever transportation plans were required or should have, we're going to end up having all of our road projects that receive federal money. We're going to want all those in the transportation plan. And the example that came up today, Mayor, you know, because you signed off on the letters, Stephen has been very active trying to get money for us, working with the congressional staff of Congressman Lucas. And so we applied for about 4 projects for, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars just yesterday. And he's already talked to the guy in Washington on one of these things because it's related to a traffic circle. And there's not a lot of need to talk about it because we might not get any money. But the question came back from the congressional staff was, well, you need to see if that's an approved thing with the Federal Highway Traffic Administration people, the feds. And so Stephen dutifully called, and what he told me they told him was, well, you need to call ODOT. So he turned around, he called ODOT, but we were on the line with ODOT, and he subsequently followed up with the guy, specifically Daniel Wynn, and was told, well, of course, we fund traffic circles. We just did one, was it in Tahlequah or someplace? El Reno's got one coming. So potentially, if that works out, we might have one, potentially at Cleveland and Roop. But those are the kinds of things that we will be putting into the MPO and need to have in the MPO. And as we have them in the MPO, we'll have an ability to perhaps get some more funding. So we're excited. As we talked about a tough budget year and less money for capital projects, we're going to have to beat the bushes and hold our hand out. And we've been very successful doing that through grants, the PPP program that's transforming the airport with all of that state withholding tax money back. But anyway, to stay back with the MPO, that was interesting today because one of the questions was if it's in an MPO or that project STIP or TIP they're called, then give us the project name. Well, we didn't have a project name yet and it's not in the STIP or TIP, but we gave it one, right, Morali? What did we call it? Commander Circle or something like that? Commander Circle. So, and the bridge over Boggy. Yes. So if these projects come to fruition and we get money, you'll hear a lot more about it. But that's how the MPO ties into this thing. So I'm glad that we've gotten involved. You guys were instrumental in suggesting that we should run the MPO, so to speak. So I know Carol probably rues the day of that decision, but I appreciate Carol's been carrying the load with all the documents and the ODOT ladies, but help is on the way.
Both of our new boards are listed in our boards and commissions pages. It's the second page of our boards and commissions pages. So we have the Transportation Policy Board of the Chisholm Trail Metropolitan Planning Organization and the Transportation Technical Board of the Chisholm Trail Metropolitan Planning Organization. And it has all of our members listed. Anything else? Okay, we'll talk about the sinking fund. This is the same every year. Page 141. So this is the service fund provided by state law, where we can levy judgments that are $20,000 and over each year with the estimate of needs process with Garfield County.
So when we say we don't get property taxes, we don't. This is the only place that we levy. And these are mostly, if not all, judgments, right, on work comp?
They have to be judgments.
And 300 is just a guesstimate
Just an
placeholder.
estimate.
It varies from year to year.
Any questions about that? We're close to the end.
You did a very good job, and I just want to thank the team personally. I know there's a lot of work. Every time I've been up here, they've been working on it. So it starts months before it's laying in front of us, and we do appreciate that. And thanks for being as conservative as we are. I know it's tough when you have a commission that really wants to do a lot of stuff, but I just think it's important that we always be cautious with our dollars. But I do like shaking the bushes on grants and everything else that's out there, and I think we're really ramping up and starting to do that on a big scale. So between Cooper and Stephen and who else out there is chasing those? But anyway, thank you very much. You did a great job, and Aaron, thank you too.
So this is just to remind you, so next Tuesday night, we're doing the green funds, and then also have the budget hearing. And then on Thursday, we will do the funds in blue.
And then also, if you have any follow-up questions related to tonight or the future, we'll be able to address those in those at least 2 extra meetings.
Okay, with that being said, I think I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion and a second, all in favors? Cast your ballot. Motion passes 7-0. We are adjourned.
Nobody wants to stay here with you, Jennifer.
Get in here, it's at the bottom.